Okay, new time, same great taste. What's up, everyone? Welcome to DraftKings. This is The Sweat. She's still Jessie. I'm still Emerson. Moving forward, we are coming at you live at 10 o'clock Eastern Time.
So besides that, I mean, not much has changed. We'll run through all of the betting and fantasy angles of the day's games with our analysts. And feel free to hit us up on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter with any questions that you may have.
That sounds good, but let's go ahead and start off by overreacting to Week 14 in the NFL with DraftKings contributors Steve Buchanan and Jeff Ulrich. I really hope they're there. Would love to see them.
Oh, there
they are. Good to
are.
see you guys. Good morning. How's everyone doing?
I had to move the time of my workout, but I mean, other than that, I don't work out. I'm just kidding.
I was going to say, dude,
I'm not sure if I'm still awake, if I'm awake or still sleeping, but I mean, something's going on here.
It's just a dream, Jeff. Go with it.
Well, both of you are saying
Better
words.
than most of my dreams, Jesse.
Yeah.
All right, well, love having both of you here. Okay, so let's overreact. After losing to a home game to Kansas City here. Losing a home game to Kansas City, the Patriots' long run of greatness is officially over. Who believes it? Do you, Jeff?
I mean, let's define greatness here. Like, if the Patriots win their division and make the playoffs and maybe even get a playoff win and then lose out again in the playoffs to, like, Baltimore or Kansas City, is it really that bad a year? This is a team that's still making the playoffs every season, winning their division. I mean, I don't think it's safe to say that their run of greatness is just going to be over if they don't win the Super Bowl this year. Are they declining a bit? Yeah, it appears so. They've lost to the three other best teams in the AFC so far this season, and they're obviously having some troubles, especially on offense. And their defense has even been getting exposed a little bit too to like these superior running teams. So yeah, there's cause for concern as far as the Patriots making a long run this year. But you know, until the wheels start falling off, like we've seen in Golden State, and you know, maybe Brady can't, like, you know, starts missing games, or maybe if they lose to Cincinnati and Miami, then I'll be able to call it over. But for right now, no, I think there's still a little bit of greatness left. I wouldn't be shocked if we see a rebound here towards the end of the season still.
Yeah, Steve, fans booing this team off the field in the first half.
Yeah, look, you know, if you go on Twitter, if you're reading the news articles, I mean, everybody's kind of talking about how the refs blew this game for the Patriots, and it's unfortunate that that's the storyline because, you know, the Travis Kelce fumble that was initially blown dead that they could have potentially run back for a touchdown. The N'Keal Harry touchdown that actually wasn't a touchdown, supposedly. I still am trying to figure that one out there, but plain and simple, the Patriots' offensive line is just bad. I mean, Brady is a pocket passer. He's not getting any clean looks. I mean, instead of trying to find guys downfield, he's scrambling for his life and can't get any clean looks, and that's one of the biggest storylines I think with this Patriots team. If they start getting some protection in front of Brady, they're running, you know, a third string center right there, they're just rushing Brady, they get some protection there. I think this is a different looking team. Brady's just not getting the clean looks like that right now, and it's making the whole team look bad. I mean, defensively, they absolutely shut down the Chiefs in the second half. You can't deny that, but I mean, you know, Brady's just not getting anything to any of his receivers because he can't get any looks right now. So I think that's the biggest question right now. If they start getting him some protection, I think you're looking at a different looking team.
The 49ers outdueled the Saints in the game of the year, 48-46. Agree or disagree that they are now clearly the best team in the NFC, Steve?
Yeah, I'm not convinced on that. I mean, they gutted out a really gutsy win yesterday, but you still allowed 46 points in a win. You know, I wouldn't exactly say that you shut down the Saints or anything like that. And this defense is not the same from what we saw in the beginning of the year. They were just absolutely allowing nothing through the air, on the ground, and that's been something that's been exposed big time lately. You look at the last four games, they've allowed an average of 25 points over those last four games. Quite frankly, that game could have gone either way. I mean, it's not like the 49ers won in convincing fashion. It was an unbelievable game. It was probably one of the best games we've seen all season long. But for you to say, you know, the 49ers are the team now because of the win, I'm not on board with that. I mean, give me a more convincing win. Great. Let's not take away from the win there, but it's not like it was an absolute rout or anything. It was a slugfest, and they came out in the end.
Jeff, I mean, Steve isn't convinced. What about you?
I'm actually pretty convinced. I think the thing that you have to take into consideration is there's not a huge gap between San Francisco and New Orleans. I mean, I think for me, those are two pretty much clearly the top two teams in the NFC right now. And we saw last week, I mean, the defense has kind of got exposed, but like, let's take into consideration here how good the San Francisco Giants or the San Francisco 49ers offense is under Kyle Shanahan. I mean, this is a team that's put up 36 or more points in 3 of its last 4 games. This guy is an absolute maestro at calling plays, and he's turned Jimmy Garoppolo looking into like the Tom Brady from the early 2000s here. I mean, this is a very, very hard team to beat because you still have a stout defense, which, by the way, held Baltimore to only 20 points last week. It's a feat in and of itself. So I still think there's some upside there with the defense. And yeah, they've tailed off a little bit since their absolute dominant opening to the season, but that was kind of to be expected. To me, the story is just the offense and the play calling with Kyle Shanahan. To outduel Sean Payton in the Superdome, yeah, I'm going to give the edge here to San Francisco. I also think they're starting to become more of a clear-cut definition in their division. Seattle getting beat badly on last night. I think they kind of got exposed as a team that, in my opinion, was outperforming with their talent level. And I feel like San Francisco now in the driver's seat has a real shot to get the 1 seed. Yeah, I like where the 49ers are headed. I think they're the clear-cut number 1 right now in the NFC.
All right, Jeff, the Steelers, though, win in Arizona behind Devlin Hodges, the first undrafted rookie quarterback here to win his first 3 starts since Ed Rubert in 1987 with Washington. Pittsburgh currently in the second and final wildcard spot in the AFC, and the Steelers will be a tough out for anyone in the playoffs. Do you agree or disagree?
Yeah, old Duck Dodgers getting it done in Pittsburgh still. I mean, the problem that Pittsburgh is going to face, and I know they have a really good defense, and they burned me last week. I tried to go against them on the road. It didn't work out, but I think that was more of an issue of just Arizona shooting itself in the foot. Kyler Murray with 2 red zone turnovers. Like, it just was not a good game for him. And Arizona's kind of had a history of doing that this year where they put themselves in position to be competitive, and then they've just blown the game. So it's not really that impressive a win last week. The problem with Pittsburgh, like I said, they're going to be on the road in the playoffs. They just have not performed well on the road as a defense. They've got far fewer sacks. Their offense historically under Mike Tomlin has not been as good. And then they still have Duck Hodges as their quarterback, who's performed well. But, I mean, in a playoff game against a top-tier opponent, like, I think it's going to be a bridge too far. So I'm not too worried. You obviously, anytime you're going up against an elite unit like the Steelers defense, is a little bit of a cause for concern. Anything can happen, special teams, turnovers. But I don't think they're going to be that tough and out personally.
Steve, what do you think here? Pittsburgh makes the playoffs. Are they going to be a tough out for their opponent?
I mean, their defense is going to keep them in games. I mean, their pass rush is by far one of the best in the league, and we saw that again yesterday with Kyler Murray, but their offense is going to struggle. I mean, if there was a game that Hodges could kind of show what he could do as a quarterback, that would have been the game. And, yeah, he completed 16 of his 19 pass attempts, but for 152 yards and a touchdown, like, that should be a secondary that you should be carving up. I mean, coming into that game, the Cardinals allowed over 300 passing yards in 5 straight games. And look, I know the Steelers are hurting on offense. You know, Juju Smith-Schuster has been out. James Conner has been out. But, I mean, they just have nobody to cover anybody in that Cardinals secondary. Patrick Peterson is just a shell of his former self. There's nobody to cover anyone. And for him to come away with 152 yards, it was kind of shocking, honestly, because he looked good. He was hitting his receivers, but they just could get nothing after the catch, it felt like. So, you know, will they make it into the playoffs? I mean, it's likely, but, you know, kind of like what Jeff said, like, they're going to have a tough road ahead if they do end up making it in. You know, they'll definitely get some teams under pressure with their pass rush, but their offense is just not going to be able to carry them to any wins here. So, you know, it's probably a one and done for them if they end up getting in.
Ryan Tannehill throws for almost 400 yards in a Titans win over Oakland, solidifying that he is a top 10 NFL quarterback.
Yep.
And like that the Dolphins just blew it with him. True or false, Steve?
I mean, it's pretty wild because you look at the 7 games he started, like from a fantasy perspective, he's averaging 24.3 DraftKings fantasy points, multiple touchdowns thrown in 6 of his 7 starts, over 20 rushing yards, and 3 of them, like, he has played very, very well. You know, do I want to put him in the top 10 as of yet? I'm not crazy about it. I mean, it's a nice stretch for him. There's no doubt about that. I mean, he was just so limited in Miami. Like, he had some talent around him, but, you know, he's always surrounded with these bonehead coaches. I think that's always been the problem. It's felt like with Ryan Tannehill. So, you know, maybe he's finally playing to that potential that they always thought that they had with him. I mean, he's looked great. It's not like he's just fluking by, you know, getting these, you know, bogus calls, whatever. Like, he's actually getting it done. So, you know, am I going to put him in the top 10? I mean, he's right there. I don't know if I want to slide him in just yet. I'd like to see, you know, like a longer sample than what we've had so far than a 7-game stretch. I mean, you know, heck, Derek Carr looked like one of the best quarterbacks in the first few weeks of the season. Look how fast he's tailed off. So I'm not there yet, but I mean, he's definitely making a case to move up in the ranks.
Jeff, is he top 10 for you?
Yeah, this is, to me, like, this is one of my favorite stories of the year. I mean, I love guys who just come back from the dead and show what they can really are capable of, especially under new coaches. The game Ryan Tannehill just looks like he's on fast forward compared to when he played in Miami. I mean, you have to go back to Miami. Remember, this is a player who was like a wide receiver for a bit in college, very athletic. People thought he might be a dual threat coming in. And he just wasn't that great a downfield passer in Miami. He never really developed under like the slow-paced Adam Gase offense either. So, you know, for him to come in, I mean, he's hitting like 77% of his passes in each of his last 3 games. His yards per attempt is through the roof. I mean, these are numbers you don't just see from flash in the pans. I mean, these are real stats that he's putting up. I absolutely believe in this story. I think he's going to continue to have success in this offense. Got Derrick Henry as you know, to sort of limit his exposure each game. But even in games where he's had to throw it, like in that Kansas City game, I mean, he just keeps firing downfield and keeps connecting with some of these good receivers they have. So, yeah, I absolutely believe in Ryan Tannehill. I think this is going to be a story that even continues into next year. I like the fact he had a little bit of rushing at him for fantasy too. I just think that the potential was already there and it's just being unlocked. And we see that sometimes with quarterbacks moving new systems. I definitely think he's a top 10 quarterback right now.
Awesome, guys. We're going to chase or fade some Monday Night Football prop bets with you coming up. But first, some hot take tiers with Christian Fourier. All right, Christian Fourier in the house. You like games?
Oh, I love games.
Yeah, of course you do. Let's play a game.
Do I look like I don't like games?
Let's play a game here. It's called Hot Take Tiers. So using the DraftKings tiers format, you are going to construct a dream team to carry the flag of old school hip hop. All right?
Okay.
So you only have one choice from the following tiers.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes.
All right, tier 1 is female artists. You have MC Light, Queen Latifah, Salt and Pepper, the Lady of Rage. You've got to pick one.
I'm gonna, you know what? I'm gonna go with Salt and Pepper. I know it's a group because push it. I mean, I used to listen to that song on repeat driving to school back in the Valley, in the San Fernando Valley. So yeah, definitely Salt and Pepper.
Windows down, rolling up into school.
Of course,
in
a 1971 Honda Accord. Okay, it was not.
Wow.
Pacific Blue was not cool, but I spent all my money on a boombox so I could get some bass, and it shook the whole car.
All right,
so
let's see who you're rocking with here in tier 2. Male artists: Eazy-E, LL Cool J, Dr. Dre, or Slick Rick.
Wow. Again, I'm gonna go. I mean, they're all good picks. How do you?
This is really tough. But
I'm
that's why we're
going
putting
old
pressure on
school.
you.
I'm going Eazy-E. I am going Easy, which is really kind of part of MWA. So I'm gonna stick with Eazy-E. That whole genre was a big part of, I guess, my high school years. So when we talk old school hip hop, Dr. Dre as a solo artist isn't as old school as would be Eazy-E as a solo artist.
Okay, tier 3, one-hit wonders: Biz Markie, Just a Friend, Young MC, Bust a Move, Candyman. You have Knockin' Boots and Paperboy, Diddy.
Wow, this is
One-hit
difficult.
wonders are phenomenal.
Biz Markie, Young MC. I'm gonna go Young MC, even though Biz Markie is.
That is on my playlist, and it's like every day. It's
and that is also one of those raps, those songs that come on, and if you're at a house party or you're anywhere, everybody
like
knows the lyrics.
Everyone's singing
first
it.
Base, everybody is singing the lyrics. It's not too weird. You can understand it. So yeah, Young MC.
Tier 4, smash hit creators here: Digital Underground, The Humpty Dance.
Okay.
All right, NWA, Straight Outta Compton. Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. That's The Message. And De La Soul, Me, Myself, and I.
I'm gonna go with The Message. I'm definitely gonna go with The Message.
Why's
that may
that?
be a surprise. It's just, again, it's legit old school. It's gotta be back in my beatbox break dancing days.
The Honda Accord.
Where Fab Five Freddy and that whole crew, and that's kind of what that reminds me of old school rap.
Tier 5, so this is the group tier.
Okay.
Eric B. and Rakim, Run DMC, Public Enemy, and A Tribe Called Quest.
Yeah, I'm going with Eric B. and Rakim.
Yeah.
Rakim Asay. Yeah, so that's, that is, Run DMC is classic too, but Eric B., I feel like I have, when certain songs were on in my life, it reminds me of certain
it's like
times.
it's nostalgic. Yeah, you're probably going to go with the songs and the artists that remind you of probably some of the better times in your life.
I remember playing Eric B. and Rakim and going to a house party in the Valley with 3 of my friends in an old school Toyota, and thinking we were the best things that ever walked the planet.
Yeah.
In my
you
rolled-up
are
jeans.
in my eye, buddy.
Yeah.
Well, it's not like you could really go wrong with any of those selections.
No.
But phenomenal job. That is like the dream team.
I can't believe you guys actually did some research and brought all those songs too.
Shout out to our producers.
Yeah.
Now it's time to turn our attention to tonight's basketball slate. We got DraftKings contributor Greg Ehrenberg here for NBA High or Low. Are these opening spreads for tonight's game? You guessed it, too high or too low?
Good morning, Mr. Ehrenberg. Clippers are 2.5-point favorites at the Pacers, so too high or too low for you?
So I think this is a little bit too high. This is the tail end of a back-to-back, so I'm assuming that Kawhi Leonard's going to be rested. We don't have that news yet. But here's how I think this spread's going to break down during the day. So right now it's 2.5. I think that probably around the next injury report, it's going to come off the board. Then Kawhi's going to get ruled out, and then it's going to settle as kind of close to a pick, or maybe even Pacers favored by a point or so. So I think that the line's a little bit too high in favor of the Clippers, but if you do like the Clippers, just wait a little bit and bet them after Kawhi gets ruled out.
The Celtics are hosting the Cavaliers tonight. Boston is on a 3-game win streak and are 13.5-point favorites. Gordon Hayward made some comments Sunday about possibly returning for tonight's matchup. Is this too high or too low for you?
Yeah, so I think the spread's a little bit too high. The Celtics should clearly win this game. The Cavs are terrible. They've been getting destroyed recently. But I also think it's a little bit of a recency bias because the Cavs lost their last game by like 60 points or something. The Sixers, the game was over in the second quarter. But then also a story came out that the players were upset with Beeline's coaching system. They think it's too much of a college program. Which, what does that even mean? Like, the players aren't getting paid and they don't have to go to class. So I don't put too much weight into that. But I do think it's having an influence on the spread because now the Celtics are just massive favorites. The Celtics haven't won that many games by that lopsided of a score. And I do think the Cavs will play a little bit better than what they've been recently.
All right, the Kings, 12.5-point underdogs, visiting the Rockets. Does this seem a little too high for you?
So this depends on an update that we get on Marvin Bagley because he's been out for basically the entire season so far. He played half a game and then injured his thumb. And he's questionable to play. It looks like he's trending towards returning. If he plays, that's a really big boost to the Kings, and I think that makes the spread probably a little bit too wide. But if he's out, then I think there's reason to like the Rockets. So it depends what the status of Bagley ends up being.
Okay, all right. Pelicans favored by 2 when they host the Pistons. What do you think about this one?
So I think this one's also a little bit too high. If we look at how these recent teams have been playing, the Pistons have won 3 of their last 4 games. The Pelicans have lost 8 games in a row. And the reason that the Pistons have kind of started to pick it back up, in my opinion, after a slow start to the season, is they have Blake Griffin back from an injury, and he's also not on a minutes restriction anymore. So when he first came back from the injury, he was restricted. He was only playing like 25-ish minutes. And he also wasn't playing very well, but he's been much better in the last few games. So that's a really big upgrade to the Pistons, just having Blake Griffin back and at full strength. So I think they're going to be better going forward. I think they should be favored in this game, and I think they probably work themselves into the Eastern Conference playoff picture.
All right, last one here for you, Greg. T-Wolves visiting the Suns. Suns out, guns out, favored by 4. Too high, too low?
So this is another one where I think we need an injury update because we have Aaron Baines is questionable to play. And I think a lot of people, maybe Celtics fans, people in Boston, you guys will realize how valuable Aaron Baines could be. But with Phoenix, he's really made a huge difference. With him on the floor, they're scoring 117 points per 100 possessions. And with him off the floor, they're only scoring 110 points per 100 possessions. So Baines has missed the last couple of games. He's questionable to play tonight. If he's in, I really like the Suns' chance in this game. If he's out, it's a really big downgrade to them, and one that I think generally tends to go a little bit overlooked by the book.
Alrighty, thanks, Greg. We'll have you back for NBA building blocks in a little bit. But first, let's get a Monday Night Football preview, huh? Yeah.
Okay.
Freddie Glasheen and Steve Buchanan of DraftKings here with you. We are going to talk some betting angles from DraftKings Sportsbook for this week's Monday Night Showdown between the Eagles and Giants. Birds are 9.5-point favorites, hosting the Eli Manning-led G-Men. The total for this one, 45.5. Philly is -420 on the money line. So, Steve, do you like the Eagles to cover in this game?
I do like this 9.5-point spread. Look, both teams have not been strong against the spread. 4-8 on the year. The Eagles 2-4 when they're favored. But you look at this Giants secondary. This has been one that has been picked apart all season long, allowing an average of 14.7 yards per reception. And we just saw Carson Wentz throw over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns against another poor secondary in the Dolphins last week. So I do think he has a very good chance to cover here.
What about the 45.5-point total? Do you like the chances of these teams racking up the points?
Yeah, so interesting that Eli Manning is now in the mix. That makes a big difference there. But both teams have done very well with hitting the over. The Eagles 6-6 on the year. The Giants 7-5. And again, 2 very poor secondaries on both sides of the ball. Who knows what we're going to get from Eli Manning? But he does like Saquon Barkley a lot more in the passing game than has been used by Daniel Jones. So I think there is a very legitimate chance that this total does go over the 45.5. So I do like the over.
over in this one as well.
All right, those are the DraftKings Sportsbook betting angles for Eagles Giants. See you next time.
Let's talk hockey with a couple guys who are married to the game. DraftKings contributors Jeff Ulrich and Chris Wassel of Awesemo.com.
It's NHL opening face-off when we have you choose between the top options at each position on tonight's 4-game slate.
Starting at center, Nicholas Backstrom is back for the Caps after missing the past 8 games. Dude even compared himself to Adam Banks of the Mighty Ducks, saying, "I woke up, no pain." Nice. He's just $5K tonight against Columbus. Taking a chance on Backy or paying up for Nathan McKinnon at 8,300, Chris?
Yeah, this was tougher than I thought this morning, though. When I started looking at this, I realized, Mr. McKinnon not doing so good late. Had some scoring chances the last couple games, but home against Calgary, who loves to give up a lot of goals on the road. On the other hand, you have Backstrom coming back off of an injury, what's believed to be a severe shoulder impingement, against Columbus, a team that Washington tends to do very well against, and a team that, for some reason, Washington their power play is even better. Honestly, it's going to pay me to say this. I'm actually willing to roll the bones a little bit tonight and go for the 3,000 less and chuck up Nicholas Backstrom. He had 3 games that he's come back from injury in the last couple seasons. He's had average double-digit DK points, which is crazy, but it's just for some reason it's an odd stat. It's out there, and he seems to perform well coming back from any injury.
You gonna roll the bones on Backy, Jeff?
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way as Chris. I mean, I think it's a really good spot just for the Capitals for top 2 lines overall. I might rather pay up just for Kuznetsov on the first line, and then you can pair him with Ovechkin and Wilson, or just pair him with maybe John Carlson on the power play. Kuznetsov's just a bit better shooter, but I mean, Backstrom has some upside here as well. He's not a player I usually go out of my way to roster because he doesn't have the highest shot volume, but this is a spot where he could definitely end up with 3 assists, get you the point bonus on DK, maybe even find the goal. So yeah, I think a 5K against this opponent who, the bottom tier penalty kill, yeah, I think Backstrom's definitely in play, and I'd actually probably lead him over McKinnon just because of the savings in the point per dollar tonight.
In the wing department, David Pastrnak is $8K, while Nikita Kucherov is $200 cheaper. Both have failed to hit double digits in each of their last 2 games. Which one gets back on track, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, Kucherov's played pretty well since coming back from injury. He had a no-point game in his last outing, but other than that, he was pretty good. I'd still lean Pastrnak here. It's just, look, we have so many mismatches on the slate, and then you have the Tampa Bay Lightning, who are going up against the Islanders, one of the top defensive teams in the league. They still have a really good power penalty kill. They're 4th in goals against average. It's just a tough matchup most nights going up against the Islanders. Doesn't mean that Kucherov can't get it done, or that he doesn't make for a good GPP play just because his ownership will probably be down. But Pastrnak going up against the Senators, who still just suck. And I mean, they're goals against, they're still bottom tier in the league. It's just too good. It just screams like two goal night for Pastrnak, 3-point night. And I'd much rather take that spot than rolling the dice on Kucherov. Although, like I said, if you're making multiple GPP lineups, getting some exposure to Kucherov probably not a bad idea.
I mean, Chris, Kucherov is your boy here.
He is normally, but sometimes it's kill or be killed here in DFS, and it kind of feels like a pasta al dente night with just the fact that, look, Boston has one of the historically best power plays in the league over the last 10 years, especially with that top line. And I can sit there, take Pastrnak. I can pair him up with Torrey Krug a little bit on a night like this, just because, look, Ottawa matchup-wise is a walking shot factory. This is one of the teams, even at home, is 30th in the league in shots allowed. And we all know that how much Pastrnak cannot resist his own shot. So he can hit the shot bonus there. And then on top of it, if he pops a goal or 2 in, that's extra added bonus value.
All right, to the bros on the blue line. John Carlson, per usual, is head and shoulders above everyone else in the salary department. $7,700, Jessie. But Calgary's Mark Giordano is 5.7. Ottawa's Thomas Chabot is even cheaper at $5K. Which one you going with on defense, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely feels like a night where you should try and just squeeze Carlson into your lineup. There's just not a whole ton of other elite names under him that produce even in the same manner. Although I admit, like, Giordano is interesting. I've been trying to chase this bigger game because his point pace right now is so far behind where he was last year that you've got to figure there's some like positive regression coming. At the same time, it hasn't come, so you're kind of just in like trying to catch a falling knife mode with him. He's still putting up some decent peripherals, but it's been a little bit barren. Chabot versus the Boston Bruins. I don't really like. I like the name that Chris just brought up, Torrey Krug, in the last segment. I think that's probably where I would go in this range, and then you can pair him with one of the big Boston Bruins forwards. So Giordano slightly interesting, definitely a bit of a gamble. I think Krug has more upside tonight for a cheaper price, though. And like I said, you can stack him with the Bruins forwards. So.
Who's your guy, Chris?
And I alluded to it earlier. To be honest, Krug is my guy. My problem with Giordano, like Jeff said, we're waiting for some kind of bounce back from a team that has had just extremely erratic scoring. I mean, Johnny Gaudreau scored the other night for the first time in like 5 or 6 games. Scored an even strength goal, and it felt like it was forever, and just a relief. So when a top line is struggling like that, and usually your top line is paired and correlated with your top defenseman, and your defenseman's not producing because the line mates aren't, it's a huge problem that really Calgary has had no solutions to, even with the coaching change to Jeff Ward. So this is something where literally, if you can go other places a little bit off the map tonight, this would be the position to do it, and especially for your second defenseman more than your first.
Manning the crease. Only 8 goalies in play tonight. Who is your favorite, Chris?
This was cruel and unusual punishment tonight. It was just one of those nights where it's like, okay, I'm waiting for somebody to be confirmed. I'm waiting for this. I'm waiting for that. You know what? Basically, at this point, whoever starts for the Islanders at this point may just be a good enough GPP play to take a shot at. This is the reality that we're in, unfortunately, with the 4-game slate. As much as I would love to sit there and say with Colorado, I don't know who the heck else is going to get injured from Colorado tonight. This is something that people may not have noticed, but for as much as they got their top line back, now there's no Makar. Presume either concussion or shoulder injury. Grubauer is iffy at best. So you basically have 4 or 5 guys that went out after 3 guys came back in. It's like one of those bad, like, nightmare bus things that you see on HBO where, like, 2 people get on, 3 people get off. And that's kind of like what it is with Colorado. So that wasn't such a hot idea. And then after that, you just go through the options, and the Islander goalie seems to make the most sense. That and the fact that the Islanders were pretty steamed after their performance in Dallas on Saturday night. So I expect to bounce back.
Jeff, talk to me.
It is a bit of a graveyard out there in goalie land tonight, and Chris did a good preview of that. It's like listening to a radio show from the 20s or something there. But look, I like the other side of that Islanders game. I like just going with Vasilevsky. I mean, look, the Tampa Bay Lightning allow the 4th most shots per game in the league, and I know the Islanders don't take a lot of shots, but I mean that even most teams going up against Tampa just get the 30 shots, and Vasilevsky's been a little bit hit or miss, but 2 of his last 3 games have been really good. I think there's enough upside there. I think you got to pay up for a goalie either way tonight. I just don't trust any of these value options.
Slate approved time, Jeff. Who was your lock on this slate?
I'm going with Johnny Gaudreau, a little bit off the board, but he's only $6K. And, we mentioned the coaching change in Calgary. He's been a lot better since that happened. 5 shots on goal in each of his last 2 games. I think he's just too cheap, and he's behind his pace from last year. I think he's going to show some good positive regression in the near future.
Chris, you're a must-roster hockey player.
I figure his buddy is coming back tonight. I know he's been looking forward to it. And even, look, Alexander Ovechkin tonight. I mean, if he can teach his 1-year-old how to stick handle already at Christmas parties, he's just set up to have a good night against the Columbus team that often, and over the last 6 games, Ovechkin has 9 points against Columbus.
Rolling with the great one. All right, nice work, gentlemen. We'll chase or fade some Monday Night Football prop bets after Mike Francesa weighs in on tonight's Eagles-Giants matchup.
Giants in Philadelphia. New York turning back the clock. Eli Manning's going to start, it looks like, with Daniel Jones hurt. So, you know he'd like to make a statement, but Philly only a game back in the division, trying to catch those Cowboys. Maybe, seemingly, it seems. Eagles plenty motivated. So you taking the Birds?
You have to. I mean, you can't expect Eli to come in and win this game on the road when the Eagles still need it, especially if the Cowboys ever lose. That'll even motivate them more. But, Eli can't fix the Giant defense, which is awful. But I do think he will have a good day against the Eagles secondary. Fitzpatrick tore them apart last week. I mean, he used the size of his receivers against the smallish corners for the Eagles, who are not even good players to begin with. I think the Giants, you would think they'd go. I know Eli will go to school on that. I don't know if the coaching staff will go to school on that. I think Eli will go to school on that. I think there's big plays to be made against the Eagles secondary. I think Eli will make some. Enough for the upset? No, but I tell you right now, at 10 points, I would take the Giants.
What do you anticipate from Eli Manning's swan song now if he ends up going the rest of the year?
I think first of all, I think he should for a couple of reasons. Number one, they saw what they need to see from Daniel Jones. There's actually now a benefit for Daniel Jones to go to the sideline, knowing now what he knows, and watch a veteran quarterback who's a very talented one play, because he'll learn something from that. Number two, he's on a high ankle sprain. Why rush him back? Okay. And number three, you have 2 home games. The only motivation for the Giant fan would be to see Eli one more time against the Dolphins, or the last game of the year against the Eagles. Eli will help them at the gate. So there's a lot of reasons to play him the last month, I think, on every level. Plus, a couple of wins with Eli might save the coach's job. I mean, it's possible. I don't know if they've made a decision or not yet, but you know what? A couple of wins, you'd have a better chance to get him with Eli, because let's be honest, Jones, who's shown that he can throw the ball, shown some mobility, has been a very high turnover quarterback. He was going to set a record for fumbles in the history of the league if he stayed in the lineup. And the team is on a long losing streak. So I think Eli will give them a lift, but I'd be surprised if they won this game. But I tell you right now, 10 points, I think Eli will keep it close.
Okay, so we just got a Monday Night Football preview from Mike Francesa.
Yeah.
Seems like the perfect time to play chase or fade.
Okay.
We got DraftKings contributors Steve Buchanan and Jeff Ulrich here. Guys, agree or disagree with the following statements regarding tonight's matchup between the Giants and Eagles?
Over, under, 44.5. Steve, chase or fade that this game is a shootout and goes over.
I think it has a good chance. I mean, this game originally opened at 46.5 when the perception was that Daniel Jones was going to be active in playing, and now it's come down to 44.5. I mean, I like the total when it was at 46. I still like it here at 45. I mean, obviously Eli Manning is the biggest wild card here, but these are just really bad secondaries on both sides of the ball here. Like, they should be able to move the ball downfield, even no matter who's under center for either team here. So I like this one a lot. And, the Eagles secondary allowing an average of 170 yards to opposing wide receivers. Like, this is just such a tasty matchup for somebody like Golden Tate. So, yeah, I like this game to go over by far.
You like the game to go over as well, Jeff?
Yeah, it's probably not like my favorite thing to bet tonight, but I think I would choose the over here as well. I think, as Steve alluded to, there's just too many holes here to poke in with both of these teams. I mean, you saw Aaron Rodgers carve up a Giants secondary that has been really just like lackadaisical all season. Janoris Jenkins chooses which games he's going to play and which games he doesn't. And then you have the Eagles secondary just is bad all the time. So I even think Saquon Barkley could get going in this game. He's been a lot more effective as a receiver with Eli Manning throughout his career. So all things considered, yeah, I'm going to lean over as well.
Well, we've been talking about it. Eli is back. He heard me. And his passing total is set at 249.5. Jeff, chase or fade that Eli has more passing yards than Carson Wentz tonight?
Oh, yeah, you got to chase this. It's the Eli narrative. I don't even know what game this is. Maybe his second last game. Maybe it's his last game. But you got to chase this. I mean, look, and again, there is a couple factors here. It's not just that it's this narrative thing coming on, but Eli Manning through his career has worked Saquon Barkley well, And he's also worked against the division well at times too. So, going up against a weaker Eagles secondary with Golden Tate back, Darius Slayton on the outside, and even Jaden Smith working at tight end without Evan Ingram. I think Eli Manning is in a position here to put up some yards. He might not equal out to like a Giants win or a ton of fantasy points, but I could easily see him putting up 280, 290 yards in kind of a comeback role. That's what Eli Manning kind of did. He was never that prolific a touchdown passer, but he's pretty good at putting up yards, and especially in garbage time. So all things considered, I think the Eagles will probably be able to run the ball a bit, keep Carson Wentz totals down. Yeah, I like Eli. I like Eli's passing total. I like to go over.
Steve, what do you think? Oh, he looks confused.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm waiting for Jeff to say, JK, just kidding. It was just a joke. Here's my real answer.
Uh-oh.
Are you kidding me? Eli's going to come off the bench.
Yeah.
He hasn't played since, week 2? And all of a sudden he's going to go chuck the ball for 300 yards? What are we?
260.
I know it's early, Jeff. I know it's early. But you got to think rationally when you answer these questions. Look, Wentz should have a phenomenal day against his Giants secondary. That's been
terrible. Wentz just lost to the Dolphins.
I don't care if they lost. We're not talking about wins and losses. We're talking about passing yards. Wentz against really bad secondaries. Miami, 310. Minnesota, 306. Redskins, 313. The Giants are allowing an average of 14.7 yards per reception. That's one of the highest in the league. I'm sorry, the corpse of Eli Manning is not going to come off that bench, all of a sudden have this renowned arm, he's so fresh now. He's going to start throwing 20-yard bombs all over the field. It is not going to happen. Carson Wentz will have more than Eli Manning. Mark the tape. We'll replay this whenever we're on together again. It's not happening. I'm sorry, Jeff. It's not.
Book the tape.
Do it.
All right, the tape is marked.
I look forward to tomorrow morning's show.
I love Steve saying the corpse of Eli Manning.
He probably will throw 5 interceptions tonight. It's going to be ridiculous. Miles Sanders' projected rushing yards total is set at 65.5. That's 5 more than Saquon Barkley here. So, Steve, chase your faith that Sanders does indeed outrush Saquon.
Outrush. I definitely will agree with that. I mean, Barkley's averaged 14 carries with Eli Manning during his first 2 games. But the Giants have only ran the ball 37% of the time last year when Eli was under center. What we should see here is more targets for Saquon Barkley. He had a 21% target share last year when Eli Manning was the starter. With Daniel Jones this season, only 10.8. And, the Eagles have such a bad secondary, but their run defense has actually been pretty good. That's actually been one of their strong points on defense. So I do think, especially in a game where the Eagles are, favored by so much, I think it's at 9.5 right now. If you're expecting that type of outcome, then it makes sense for Miles Sanders to be outrushing Saquon Barkley here. So I definitely think he'll outrush him. The receptions part of it is a different story. I think Barkley will definitely lead in that aspect. But for this question here, I think Miles Sanders will definitely outrush Saquon Barkley.
Jeff, you in the same boat here? You think he outrushes, but when it comes into the reception department, it's a little different?
I'm just going to take Saquon in both departments, I think. I just feel like both these rush defenses are pretty good. The Giants have only allowed one 100-yard rusher in their last 4 games. Now it's to Ezekiel Elliott, kind of a volume game. This is a pretty good rush defense, to be honest. It's not like Miles Sanders is out there exploding for 50-yard rushes every game. He's actually had some trouble as a rusher. He's had most of his productivity as a pass catcher. So you just need one 60-yard rush from Saquon to kind of hit this, and he's certainly capable of it. Look, I mean, the Eagles' rush defense is good, but they're not infallible. They allowed Rashad Penny to have a big game a couple games ago. I think Saquon can find some room here tonight. It'll be a little sloppy out there tonight too, Steve. So, I think Saquon can get going here.
Well, Alshon Jeffrey has the highest projected receiving total at 62.5. Jeff, chase your fade that Jeffrey will not be the wide receiver with the most receiving yards in this game.
No, I'll fade this. I do think Alshon Jeffrey is in a really good spot here. And if Carson Wentz does end up throwing for 300 yards, it's probably because Alshon went for 150. I mentioned Janoris Jenkins before the show. We got a big size differential here between Alshon, who can just out-leap Jenkins. Jenkins isn't a player who really likes big physical receivers to begin with. I think it's a good mismatch. Alshon's coming off a big game. Yeah, I'll take the over here for 62.5 for sure.
Steve, where are you going?
I prefer Golden Tate in this matchup here. I mean, it's a veteran receiver that Eli Manning can rely upon. He's got a fantastic matchup against Avonte Maddox, who's allowing a 69% catch rate, 12.2 yards per reception, and 59% of the yards that he's allowed has come after the catch here. And if you think that, the Eagles are going to be winning this game, the Giants are going to be playing from behind, I think that kind of limits the upside that Jeffrey has, where someone like Tate could be getting targets pretty much all throughout the game. So as long as Eli Manning isn't turning the ball over every time he throws his way, I think Golden Tate has a good chance to lead this game in receiving yards. Daniel Jones has loved using him. I don't see why Eli Manning would kind of defer from that unless he's just targeting Barkley over and over and over. But I think Golden Tate's going to be the one who's going to lead in receiving yards.
All right, finally, Giants are 9-point underdogs. I mean, hell, I believe they've lost like 9 of their last 10 against the Eagles. But chase or fade, they cover that spread, Steve.
Yeah, I'm not loving this at all. I mean, they didn't cover in the 2 games which Eli started earlier this year. They were 8-7-1 last year against the spread with Eli. And the biggest thing for me is that, which I kind of just alluded to, he could turn over the ball realistically multiple times in this game. It's not something that's out of his character, out of his realm. And, like I said, scraping him off the bench, throwing him out there. I know this secondary is very poor. I think his yardage will be, not as much as Wentz, but, he'll get some yards in this game. But I just don't think they have enough to beat the Eagles in a must-win game for them. The Giants are just playing, just to kind of round out the season here. The Eagles have something they need to play for, so I think the Eagles cover in this game.
But Jeff, Eagles 1-4 against the spread in their past 5 games when they've been favored by a touchdown or more.
Yeah, I mean, I don't trust the Eagles. I mean, they're just not. I don't know how you can give a team coming off a loss to the Dolphins 9 points to cover. Like, it's just too much. And I've even seen this like bigger than this at some other places. So to me, this is a spot where I'm going to put my trust in Eli Manning to do enough to work Saquon Barkley to keep this close against an Eagles defense, which just really has not been that good. It's got multiple holes in it. So again, it's not even the Eli Manning. It really just comes down to, I don't think the Eagles are that good, and I don't think they deserve to be 9-point favorites against pretty much anyone in this league right now. I'm taking the Giants.
We should push this show back a couple hours to let Jeff wake up and, kind of rationalize some thoughts before he comes on the show.
I hear put my trust in Eli Manning. That just
get more weight. I only get worse as I get more weight. So.
Yeah, I'm actually loving this. So
I did too. He's like really tame right now.
Nothing is changing. Thanks, guys. We'll be right back with Greg for NBA Building Blocks after an update on some new betting possibilities at one of the DK Sportsbooks. Cool.
Got great news for you. Horse riding betting is now permitted at Scarlet Pearl, so I'm here with Johnny Avello, DraftKings Director of Race and Sports Operations, to dive right into it. And Johnny, let's do that. Biggest thing, where can people bet on horse racing?
Well, for a DraftKings property now, we just opened up our first pari-mutuel race book in Biloxi, Mississippi. Actually, it's d'Iberville to be more precise, at the Scarlet Pearl Casino. And what's pari-mutuel wagering on horse racing is that your money goes to the pool at the track, and therefore you get the posted track odds.
What kinds of options are available to bet on for people who maybe aren't familiar with horse racing in general, let alone betting on it?
Well, in horse racing, you have your win, place, and show, which is your horse to finish first, second, or third. You have exactas, which is to pick the horse that finished first and second exactly. And then you have trifectas, first, second, and third exactly. And it goes on because there's superfectas, first, second, third, and fourth exactly. But there's these other bets called pick bets, where you have to pick the winners from certain races, like 3 races in a row or 6 races in a row. And those payoffs can be spectacular, sometimes, in over the $1 million range.
For people that are going to be visiting Scarlet Pearl, anything they should keep top of mind just in terms of strategy, the way to attack some of these races from a betting perspective?
Well, there's people that have different ways of handicapping. Some like to use the past performances of the daily racing form. Some like to use Brisnet. Some use these things called the sheets, where they give you numbers on the, how the horse ran their last race according to time. But some just like to pick the name of the horse or the jockey or the colors. So I wouldn't say that there's any perfect way to do it, whatever works for you.
Okay, back to the hardwood with this hoop head. DraftKings contributor Greg Ehrenberg needs you to tell us who you are building your lineups around tonight.
It's a segment we call Building Blocks.
Ah, makes sense.
Wow, so who's your building block at center, Greg?
So I'm going to go with Miles Turner here. He's priced at his cheapest salary of the season. He's been a little bit up and down this year, so he's better suited for GPPs than cash games. But so if we look at the matchup against the Clippers, it looks like it would be difficult because they have one of the better defenses in the league. But they've struggled against big men, and this is also the tail end of the back-to-back where it looks like the Clippers are probably going to be resting guys.
All right, what about at forward?
So at forward, because I mentioned that I think the Clippers are going to be resting guys, in particular Kawhi Leonard, I think Paul George makes a lot of sense because he's probably not going to be rested. If you look at his numbers with Kawhi off the court this year, 35% usage rating, scores just under 60 fantasy points per 36 minutes. He's also tied for his cheapest salary of the season. So really good spot to go after Paul George getting that bump without Kawhi.
Who are you building around at guard, Greg?
Yeah, so D'Angelo Russell at point guard, he's had kind of a weird season for a couple reasons. Number one, a lot of injuries. Warriors are tanking, and then also just so many games that the Warriors have been blown out that it's been hard for them to see fourth quarter minutes. But for tonight, he's healthy, which hasn't always been the case this year, so he should get regular minutes. Also, the Warriors are favored for a game, which almost never happens. So this should be a game which is a decent spot for the Warriors. And then they just don't have anybody else to create in their offense. So D'Angelo Russell, since Steph Curry's gotten hurt, he has a 35% usage rating. So he's going to have a massive role in the offense, and he should be able to play all four quarters.
Okay, how about a value play?
So Emerson, you talked about him at the beginning of the show, Gordon Hayward. It looks like he could potentially be back. We don't know for sure. He's listed as questionable right now. But if he does come back, the pricing algorithm wasn't really up on that, so he's min-priced. He's only $3,000. So for that price, Gordon Hayward is just easily the best value this slate, and if he plays, probably the best value we've seen all season.
Dude, that was a great call, Emerson.
I have done my homework on
knows,
Gordon Hayward.
He knows his stuff.
Yes,
yeah,
I did.
that was me, Greg.
No, Greg, it was me.
It's fine.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
I thought I remember. I'm gonna give Jessie credit. Emerson, no credit for you.
Thank you.
All right, back to normal.
All right, last one before you take off. Who is your lock for tonight's 9-game slate?
So if Gordon Hayward plays, it has to be him. Min price. I mean, he's somebody who was priced at nearly $8,000 the last time he played. He's averaging almost 40 DK fantasy points. So it's just almost impossible to see him not have a good game for that price point if he ends up in.
All right, guys, I told all of you.
And credit to Jessie.
Keep an eye on Gordon Hayward, everyone. You heard it here first. We'll wrap up the show. Thank you very much, Greg.
Yeah,
we really
thanks,
appreciate it. I know it's early for you. We'll wrap up the show, though, with Monday Night Football Showdown picks right after we remind you how smart Steve Buchanan is. Oh, yes, this is his Make It Rain pick from Sunday's episode of The Sweat. Steve, we got a lot of viewer questions to get to, but I want you to make it rain first.
Yeah, so real quick, DeAndre Hopkins for me with the news that Will Fuller is officially out of this game. DeAndre Hopkins just becomes an absolute target monster. When Will Fuller has been off the field, he's getting a 34.8 overall target share, 26.7 in the red zone, and then he's going to be seeing shadow coverage from Chris Harris, who's allowing an average of 15 yards per reception so far this season here. I mean, Hopkins is someone that you can play each and every week here, but 7,400 is really cheap price for him in this matchup, especially with no Will Fuller here. So I think Hopkins is somebody you have to play this week.
Hopkins producing nearly 30 DK points. Good call, Steve. Would you like to take a victory lap?
Yeah, I hate to see it. Hate to see it. I think Jeff was the one who was like, oh, I don't really like Hopkins, blah, blah, blah. Look, I knew the Broncos were going to be blowing out the Texans, so I knew there was going to be plenty of opportunity for DeAndre Hopkins to get, eat up all those targets. So, hate to see it, Jeff. I'm real sad.
I'm just glad that the producers cut out my section of that because, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, probably
I like to give credit where credit due. Steve is on a streak because he called Robert Woods the week before. I guess we got to start listening to him.
Meanwhile, Jeff,
I'm glad you're finally here. That's the first rational thing you've said in this early morning edition of The Sweat, which, by the way, is on every morning now from 10 to 11.
Oh,
yes,
wonderful.
thank you.
Look at you. You're a company man.
Yeah.
Jeff producing scattered showers with his Make It Rain pick. That was Mark Ingram, everyone. Mark Ingram. That's okay. It was around like 11 fantasy points or something like that. Not quite almost 30. Maybe, though, you will perform better here as you hook us up with your Monday Night Football Showdown picks. So, you have the first question?
Yeah, Giants at Eagles. Who's your captain pick, Jeff?
Yeah, I'm going Saquon Barkley. I'm buying into this narrative for what it's worth. 91 receptions with Eli Manning under center last year we've seen his usage in that respect, and just in all respects, really go down with Daniel Jones as quarterback. I think the shift is going to be significant tonight. One thing Eli Manning does not like to do is get hit. He likes to get the ball out quick. That means Saquon Barkley. I know the Eagles' rush defense doesn't look like that good a matchup, but again, you're talking about these big PPR points. You're talking about an elite player like Saquon who just really needs one big play to kind of get it done. Yeah, I think this is a good spot to deploy him in the captain spot. I think he's actually going to be lower owned than he should.
Steve, who is your captain?
Yeah, it's going to be Golden Tate for me. Like, I'm so confused by his salary here, because for as much work as he gets, for as many targets as he gets, he's the 7th most expensive captain that you can choose from on this slate. He's averaging just over 8 targets per game. And like I said, if you like the Eagles to win, if you like them covering the spread and all that, he should be seeing plenty of work in this game here, especially if you like, if you're building for an Eagles win here. So Golden Tate makes a lot of sense for me here for the captain spot.
All right, so who do you stack with Golden Tate, Steve?
Yeah, so going off that same idea of building for an Eagles win, running it back with Miles Sanders makes a lot of sense here. The Giants are throwing here. Eagles winding down the clock with Miles Sanders here. You know, Jay Ajayi is coming to the mix, but he does not seem to be cutting into Miles Sanders' work at all here. He's going to get you double-digit carries. He'll probably get you a handful of targets, too, as well. And like I said, this is a good correlation play if you're building for an Eagles win. And then you have Golden Tate eating up all those receptions and targets up at the captain spot, giving you 1.5 points here. So I think Miles Sanders is definitely the way to go here.
What about for you, Jeffrey?
Give me Eli Manning. I mean, and it's not just an Eli Manning narrative thing. It's a price thing. I mean, he's over $3,000 cheaper than the other quarterback on this slate. Whenever you're getting a quarterback on a showdown slate that's $8,200, you almost have to put him in your lineup. I mean, quarterbacks just have that safe floor in these showdown slates where they're often in the winning lineups, both of them. So for me, I think Eli Manning could even be considered as a captain at this price. Although I didn't quite go there, obviously, so just calm down, Steve. But I do think with Saquon Barkley, Golden Tate being healthy, and just the matchup against a weak Eagles secondary, yeah, I mean, I think you got to put him in there. And again, I like the correlation with Saquon, considering how often those two connected last week.
Okay. All right, where can we find some value, Jeff?
Yeah, I'm going to go to tight end. I mean, just staying with this Giants narrative, I guess. But I mean, if you think the Giants are going to be down in this game, then I mean, Caden Smith, obviously coming in off of 14 receptions or 14 targets, over his last 2 games, and this is a player who's shown that he can just step into a pass catching role right away. The Giants are going to be down in this game, most likely. At least that's what the projected points tell us. So there should be some at least 5 or 6 targets out there. And at 2,200, you just really can't do much better than that. Obviously, he's got kind of a similar floor to kickers, and his upside, if he finds the end zone, is probably bigger than both kickers. So at 2,200, Caden Smith near a must roster for me if you're looking for value.
Steve, value.
Okay, so the number 2 thing that Jeff said that's actually made some sense on the show here this week, 2,200 is just absolute robbery for the production that Smith has been getting with Evan Ingram off the field. Like he said, 14 targets. He's turned those into 11 receptions for 87 yards. And this is an Eagles team that's been fairly roughed up at the tight end position as of late. The Dolphins just went off for 92 yards, a touchdown on 7 receptions. So to get someone like Smith at 2,200, with the production that he's been getting, who knows if he's going to get the same type of looks with Eli Manning. That's obviously something we have to take into consideration here. But at 2,200, the top tight end catching back on this team right now, I don't see how you can ignore that there. Even if you want to try to jam in some guys, I don't hate him as a captain, either as like a dart throw captain spot. If you want to jam in some of those more expensive guys, like he definitely opens up the roster. It's not safe at all. I would definitely consider that only for tournaments, but it's something that I've been trying to implement, getting some of these lower, value guys in at the captain spot. They can really load up the rest of the roster. So just something to consider, but I wouldn't be going crazy with that at all.
Okay, a value pick, but not just any regular value pick. I'm talking like a super duper value pick. Anyone under $1,000 worth using, Steve?
No. I mean,
I'm looking at the options, and this is kind of like ridiculous what you have to choose from.
Yeah, I calm down the cold take. Whoever's hitting the cold take button today, you come on the show and you give me the value. That's under $1,000. Nobody to say. Give me the boom roasted right now. Put it on the screen now.
Do it. Yeah.
Thank you for not being a coward. Thank you. if you had to ask me to give you somebody, I mean, I guess Scott Simonson, because he looked like he was going to be the top tight end option without Evan Ingram, but he's had one reception for 10 yards. He's hardly on the field. Whenever he's taken a snap, it's been on special teams, so there's really no value to use him there. Boston Scott, maybe you could put in there, but like you're seriously grasping at straws here. But this is kind of going back to what I was talking about, using someone like Caden Smith in the captain spot, because it's like if you're that desperate for salary, Caden Smith does allow you to fit in some of these more expensive guys. So, don't really take a chance with these guys that are under 1,000. They're really going to give you nothing. They're an absolute dart throw. So I'll be interested to see what Jeff says, but I think he's going to be in the same boat.
Yeah, go ahead, Jeff. Let's get weird.
Like usual, Steve has overlooked some of these plays. Look, when it comes to scrub value town, this is my area, Steve. Okay, I'll handle it. There's two guys in play tonight. First is Greg Ward. He's playing over 47% of the snaps in his last 2 games for the Eagles. Had 7 targets 2 games ago. Look, everyone's on this JJ or Sarah Whiteside train. He's been terrible all year. Ward has overtaken him for number 3 duties. And again, I mean, we were going up against a weak defense in the Giants. Absolutely, Greg Ward could catch a couple balls and pay off 200. Then the other side, Cody Lattimore, kind of a similar situation. Lattimore's more of a boom or bust play. He's probably going to catch one deep ball or not. But again, he's playing in the number 3 role for the Giants against a weak secondary. He's going to have a height and weight edge against any corner he's up against, most likely. And Eli Manning has played with Lattimore before. So I kind of like the Lattimore pick in big GPPs, but I think Ward could get there on volume. I think both these guys are in play at just $200 personally.
Jeff, who are you totally fading in this contest?
I'm going to fade Miles Sanders. And again, I alluded to the Giants' pretty decent rush defense. I just don't feel like Sanders against these average or above average rush defense is really that good a play. He doesn't have high end explosiveness. He does work well in the pass game, which means he could get there. And I know he's in more of a volume role, but obviously you can't play everyone on the slate. And I think I'd rather go with an Alshon Jeffrey big game and maybe pair him with both quarterbacks than going with Miles Sanders, who you're going to have to pay up for. So for me, obviously you got to pick and choose some big names to fade. I'm going to fade Miles Sanders and go with the Eagles pass catchers instead.
Steve, who are you looking to fade?
The Eagles are almost double-digit favorites, and he's going to fade the RB1 on the team. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, have fun with your showdown slate with Jeff under the helm giving you the advice. You play Miles Sanders. The guy you don't play is the corpse of Eli Manning. I'm not playing Eli Manning. I'm sorry, he doesn't give you enough upside. Maybe you'll get the 300-yard bonus. Ooh, congratulations, you're still alive. You can still do some things. But he's going to probably throw 3 picks, which is negative points, by the way. Other than running backs, it's really hard to get negative points on DraftKings, but he's going to be able to do that for you. There's not enough upside. What's he going to run? Is he going to rush in a touchdown? No. He's kind of like Tom Brady, but he's 10 times worse because he's not going to give you any other upside than what he can do through the air. And I'm not convinced he's going to do that well either. So Eli Manning is the one I'm not going to be paying up for. I think he's 8,200, which is absolutely asinine as well. So forget it. I'm not playing Eli Manning.
All right. What do you think? How'd you like it at 10 a.m.?
Amazing.
Hey, Jeff
Incredible.
and Steve, did you like it? You like getting up a little earlier and then hanging out with us? You don't have to wait until 6.
Jeff's takes are worse than usual, so I do enjoy ragging on that. I definitely like that aspect of it.
Okay,
Good.
cool.
Good.
I like it. It gets me free the rest of the day. I can, play more video games, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. That's perfect for everyone.
I'll find you on Twitch later when you're playing all those video games. That's great. But that's it.
I don't know how to work the Twitch.
I know. You're just like Bill Belichick with your Facebook.
Snap.
What's he call it?
Snap
Face
face.
snap?
Snap
That's
face.
right. Snap face.
Snap.
All right, our first morning sweat in the books. Let's do it again tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern time, which is 7 a.m. Pacific. Nice work.
See you tomorrow.